We wanted to ask locals in New Zealand to reflect on the mosque attacks in Christchurch on March 15th, 2019. Has this attack been forgotten? Could such a tragedy bring any positives? Did the attacks affect the non-Muslim community? 15 days, 15 videos, marking the 2-year anniversary of the day that shook New Zealand. This is what they had to say. Do you remember where you were and how you felt when you first heard about the Christchurch attacks?
Yeah, I just got back to work from attending the Jummah prayer, the Friday prayer. I received a phone call from a member of the media, and he asked me if I had heard about, or had a comment to make about the shooting in Christchurch. And I went, what do you mean shooting? Was anybody hurt? And he just said, oh, sorry, I thought you might have heard about it already. I don't want to be the one to tell you about it. And he just withdrew and hung up. And it was in, my colleagues from work started to tell me that they'd heard something was going on. So I said, just, just go home, be with your family, whatever. Yeah. It was close to home. Obviously, Christchurch is just up the road, but also the fact that the terrorists had originally planned to target Dunedin, so that was pretty frightening. And especially when we reflected on the state of our masjid in terms of exits and that sort of thing, emergency exits, it would have been very much like Christchurch, potentially worse. It would have been like shooting fish in a barrel.
Yeah, I was at work. When I heard about the attacks, it was unbelievable. I was just cutting someone's hair, and because when you're really busy, you don't kind of see what's happening out in the outside world. You don't really have access to your devices. We were just chatting as you do, and then he just kind of said to me, "So, have you heard the news?" That's when he told me about the attacks.
I can remember it really clearly. So I was walking home from university and my WhatsApp messages were beeping like endlessly. I checked my messages and it was something about a mosque attack in Christchurch. I thought it was fake because you know how fake news. I've grown up here since I was 10 from Malaysia. I've always felt like I was accepted, like wearing my hijab here, like no feeling of feeling like I was different. And when it happened, I just felt confused. Like all this time, I've been bringing myself to this world as who I am, and suddenly you hear stories like this. And how do you tell that to the world, especially if you felt safe, Would
you say that xenophobia or intolerance is something that's common in New Zealand?
Honestly, as an Asian here, social media, the government, they're saying they're welcoming foreigner, but actually at the community here, some part of them, they could be very extreme.
I have had a couple of situations, but it was never with New Zealanders, which is really interesting. I was once told that I should stop praying, and it was said in a kind of a joking way, but it was never. I didn't feel it was funny. I didn't think it was appropriate to say something like that, even though it was a facade. It was masked as a humor, but I didn't feel very comfortable about it. And even worse. Usually these situations, it wasn't from strangers, but it was from your friends, among your social circles. So it just made it a bit more challenging when you have to stand up to your own friends. So, yeah.
I came here since 2019. I did not find people that do something bad to Muslim, and they really respect Muslim community.
Not as common as you find in other countries, but definitely, yeah. I think it was before the event. I had come to New Zealand and it has been like 8 months, and I was walking home from work. I worked at the airport. A man just started shouting at me to go back to where you came from. I didn't really know what to do. I was just like frozen. It just felt quite sad that we had to go through that stuff.
I don't think so. New Zealand is, I think, really cosmopolitan. But then I think that there's a gap between local and international. That's what I feel as well. But I don't think that's because of racism or whatever. Just that happens sometimes because like locals have different lives and the international have different lives.
In intermediate, I was bullied a bit for how I dressed because I was the only Muslim girl who wore a hijab to school. I wasn't the only Muslim, but I was the only one who wore a hijab to school. 11, 12-year-olds, they might not know much about the outside world, how, other religions and all. I got bullied, so students, they call me terrorist, suicide bomber. There was a time they pulled off my hijab. I had someone spit at me, I had someone take my bag, throw it in the boys' bathroom. So, but yeah, at that time, it was horrible. What happened then was that my classroom teacher noticed something was wrong, and then what she did was she reported to the principal, and what the principal did was that during the assembly he addressed the whole school about bullying, about different religions and stuff, and say how bullying is not tolerable in this school, which was awesome of him to do that.
Not to any great extent, no. Very minor stuff. I'm quite fortunate. I'm a Muslim, but I don't look like a Muslim. Well, not your typical Muslim anyway. And I'm born and raised in Dunedin, community where I live, so I fit in. So I'm not a target. And I know a lot of people probably are quite xenophobes. They have xenophobe moments. But those that let it come to the surface and dominate their lives are very few, thankfully. Most people sort of keep a lid on it and keep it to themselves and realise it's not good to feel that way. So they manage it. Mm.
Do you feel that the way in which Muslims are viewed, represented and treated in New Zealand has changed since the attacks?
I think the view towards Muslims have changed, but it sort of like goes both ways. I've seen people who are more outspoken about how they don't know almost anything about Muslims, and then there's another side where everyone's just like more outspoken about how much more focus we should put on immigrants and people practicing their faith. I think it's good that it was no longer like swept under the rug.
Those who did not hate Muslims have come out and showed their support. So that is something that has become obvious to the Muslim community. Because after obviously 9/11, Muslims felt like they're always on the edge, trying to justify their actions, everything. But and when this attack happened, frankly speaking, I was quite surprised the outpouring of support that we Muslims got. I was under the assumption, you should not assume, I was under the assumption that something like this would happen and people would be like, oh, no, you guys deserve it because you've been doing all these other kind of terrorist attacks around the world. But no, the overwhelming support showed us that actually, no, that's not true. There are people who are quite, who do not believe in what the media portrays some Muslims or whatever the other so-called Muslims are doing on behalf of Islam, on behalf of Allah, which is obviously not true at all. And it was quite evident after the attack, the outpouring of support that the Muslim community got, not just in Dunedin and Christchurch, but nationwide and actually throughout the world.
Definitely. I realized a lot of times before the Christchurch attack, people would call this the thing on my head, but now people can actually say headscarf. And it's a word that people are normalized to call. And especially, I remember during the week of the Christchurch attack, Dunedin, we had hijab day where everyone in uni wore hijabs. I donated some of my hijabs there. A lot of my friends, non-hijabi friends, wore hijabs, and that made everyone feel like the hijab is very normal. The hijab represents the Islamic culture, and it's very distinguishable. I think my confidence with the headscarf has definitely been more strong, knowing that other people know why I'm wearing it and that it is normalized in the community.
Did you ever expect this kind of intolerance to happen in New Zealand?
Intolerance?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did, because where New Zealand started as a country, like the current country, is because of colonization. And as long as people can't face that the country is founded based on colonization, then we'll continue to have discrimination against certain people, especially indigenous people and people of color. So yeah, I do expect this to happen, unfortunately. Yeah.
I think the main reason, actually one of the biggest reasons why I came to New Zealand was knowing that it's a peaceful country, and I also got my family's blessings to come to New Zealand because they know how peaceful and peace-loving the country is. Yeah, so I didn't expect any tolerance, especially the scale of the Christchurch attack to take place. But I guess it's just hidden, I guess.
Do you believe that there were any positives that came out of this event?
Yes, I would like to think so. I mean, once this attack happened, there was a lot of conversations happening about, the fact that first happened in New Zealand and how did it happen, because obviously the people that were being monitored were the Muslims, and the attack happened against the Muslims. But then it's not just that happened to the Muslims, but it happened to the people of Aotearoa. It happened in New Zealand, and so it affected everyone, the whole community in New Zealand, not just one, like you can't say it's Muslim community, the wider New Zealand community, affected the wider community, Muslim community.
I mean, on a personal level, the community just, became quite close with the Muslim community. There were a lot of Kiwis. You sort of think to yourself that you're in such a bubble. Just everyday New Zealanders just talking about it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's bring a lot of compassion here. Yeah, because people will more care with another culture and another religion here. So yeah.
Yeah, just the level of support from the wider New Zealand community, the Muslim community felt it was really greatly appreciated and pretty overwhelming, really. Yeah, it was great. I think there is more compassion. I'm not sure how much of that is, it could just be a combination of things, because we've had a lot going on, haven't we? What with March 15 and COVID and other things, I guess generally people are a bit more compassionate on the whole towards each other, realising that they've just had to reassess what's important in life, and their relationships with their fellow man is now probably a greater priority than it used to be. So yeah, I think there's more compassion. We could do with them more, of course, but that's good.
So this is the open-ended question. Do you have any words for the Muslim community or any final thoughts or reflections on the attack?
My final words for the Muslim community. I know it's hard living as your true self in a country that is foreign, especially with what has happened to us 2 years ago. I know it was really hard, which is why we have to stay together and advocate for our rights, because once we mention the things that we need, once we voice out the things that we need, all the things that's not okay, they will listen. And if they don't, make it louder, And it's really important that we do that, because sometimes our voices can be quiet and then it diminishes and you just don't hear about it in the community, and that's wrong, because there is value in our voices. It's just that it's not out there.
So for the Muslim community, as we can see the world now, they are they misunderstanding Muslim. As a Malaysian, I know Muslim very well. They actually not what we are thinking about. They are that extreme what we see on the news. But sadly, that's what the social media lead us to think about them. And please stay strong. And extreme doesn't help, but share your love will help a lot.
What I would like to say to all the Muslim community or anyone in general, something that I've said before is, do not judge a person by looking at their faith or by just looking at them. If it's your neighbor and obviously, you know, if a Muslim faith or some other faith, just smile, just say hi, just get to know them before you judge them. Try to educate people in terms of dawah. You're educating people, making them aware of what Islam is and what we Muslims believe in the Quran and Sunnah. Education, telling them, you know, your friends or everything, telling them about Islam, that what Islam actually is and what we do as a Muslim, you know, how we behave as a Muslim, your ikhlaq. Make sure the ikhlaq, for Muslims, make sure ikhlaq is proper as well, you know. So that would be something I would say. Yeah.
I think like Muslim community in New Zealand has make New Zealand like much more like diverse and caring community. I hope that you continue to be you and keep your culture and build new society moving forward. Yeah.
The way I see it, it's not a matter of being Muslim or not being Muslim. It's a matter of there's good people on every side. You just need to find those good people, and I think New Zealand has many good people. So stay strong. Kia kaha.
I guess if I could give some advice to the Muslim community, and that's just to make sure we are vigilant about incidents of xenophobia or racism or whatever. Make sure you report it to the police, even though you think maybe it's not being taken seriously. It is important to report it, because I know a lot of incidents, or when incidents were reported in the past, sort of prior to March 15, there were few of them. I guess few incidents that were reported. A lot of people just thought, oh, it's just a fact of life living in New Zealand. You know, well, you know, there's not much we can do about it. So when the events of March 15 happened, it sort of came as quite a shock to everybody. But I think if people had reported all those minor things, people might have seen a picture developing over time. Something's going to happen. You know, we're feeling that something's going to happen. They might have been taken more seriously because they would have that. A picture would have built up over time with reporting. So I think it's really important that we do report any incident, no matter how minor you think it might be. Yeah, that's all my advice, and kia kaha, basically.
I just feel like the Muslim community has a whole lot to offer, a whole lot. They're a race of people that have been through enough in their lives to actually sort of come to New Zealand and have to deal with that. It's painful. You know, I have a neighbour who is actually Syrian refugee. They're wonderful people. You know, they tend to their gardens, they live their lives, they do everyday things just like everyday people, just normal people. And they have some of the most amazing food. When they came over to our house and they bought this food, they didn't have to, they just brought over some food, you know, just to say hi. I wish everything was like that. I think if anything beautiful should come out of this, it should be we should all be more loving towards each other. Yeah, more compassionate, more open to diversity, more colour. Yeah, the world needs more colour, definitely.